Welcome back. Our next section here is going to be the introduction to systems of equations. And so we're going to spend the next week or so looking at systems. To begin with, we need to look at what is a system of equations. A system of equations refers to a set of equations in multiple variables. In other words, a set means we have more than one equation, and in multiple variables means that you're not just going to have an x in the equation. If you look at our example here, we have two equations that both have x's and y's in them. And so this is what we call a system of equations. You can have a system of three equations where you would have three variables. We're going to get to those later. To start with, though, we're just going to look at a set of two equations that have two variables. Before we can solve systems, we need to quickly review what it means to be a solution to an equation. These equations, such as y equals 2x minus 4, have a large number of solutions. Solutions referring to the values that make the equation true or maintain equality. They make that equal sign be accurate. And so as you look at our example here, y equals 2x minus 4, I plugged in some values for x and got some outputs for y. I plugged in 0 for x and got y equals negative 4. So that means the point 0, negative 4 represents one solution to that equation. There are an infinite number of solutions because I could plug in any x I wanted and get a y out. So when we're talking about a system of equations then, we're going to take this to that next step where we're looking at the solutions to our equations, and we're looking for the solution that is shared by all equations in the set. So we're looking for, in our example of y equals 2x minus 4 and y equals negative 3x plus 1, we're asking the question, what solution is shared by both of those equations? So if we look at y equals negative 3x plus 1, I've done a list of solutions for it as well. And so I plugged in the same x values, 0, 1, 2, and 3, and got my outputs. And if you look at the values here, you see 1, negative 2 shows up as a solution to our first equation and our second equation. So that means the values x equals 1, y equals negative 2 represent the solution to our system. Because a system of equations, the solution refers to the shared solution to both equations. Now, it's not always going to be realistic to list out all the solutions to an equation. That's time consuming, and it's just not always going to be the easiest method. We really use three separate methods for solving systems. Our first one here is going to be systems by graphing, and that's all we're going to look at today is solving systems of equations by graphing. In order to understand what we're doing, you have to understand what the graph of an equation is. Remember, graphs are visual representations of the solutions. So when you look at the black line in our graph here, that black line represents the set of solutions to the equation y equals 2x minus 4, or in other words, the points that came from that equation. And the red equation represents the solutions to the equation y equals negative 3x plus 1. So if we're looking for the solution they share, we would be talking about that point that is on both lines. In other words, that point where they intersect. So as you see here, I've graphed the two lines and I've circled that point where they intersect, where you get the value x equals 1, y equals negative 2, that same point we got previously. That is the solution to the system. So this is how you're going to do a good portion of your homework today. You're going to be graphing equations and finding that point where they intersect, finding that point where they meet, because that is the shared solution to both equations, which represents the solution to our system. Now, we're not going to graph all of these by hand. We have technology available to us, so we're going to use some technology to do this as well. So I'm going to walk you through the calculator instructions to find the point where two lines intersect by using your TI calculator. Now I know some of you are using Casios. You'll have to kind of play with this as we go. I don't have the instructions for doing that. You'll be able to figure that out. But for those of you that are using the TI calculator, here's exactly what you'll be typing in and what you will be doing to find a solution to a system of equations. So you see at the bottom of the screen, I have given you a system of equations, y equals 2/3 x plus 2 and y equals negative 1/2 x minus 5. And I even typed them here on the screen the way you'll want to make them look in your calculator. And so That should make things a little bit easier on you. To begin with, if you hit the y equals button, you'll see on your screen, you'll see y1, y2, y3, y4, so on and so on. That's just a way that we can enter multiple equations and have them both show up on the same graph. So we're going to enter our first equation, y equals 2/3 x plus 2 in y1, and y equals negative 1/2 x minus 5 in y2. Then you can go ahead and select the graph button. And you should be able to see both lines in your screen and see where they intersect. Now, if you don't see that, you might have to go back and change your window so that you can see that. Now, in order to calculate the point where they intersect, you can sort of estimate it on your screen, but the calculator can give us an exact answer. To get that, we want to select Calculate from the graphing menu. Now, the graphing menu refers to those 5 buttons that are directly below your viewing screen. So to get Calculate, you see the Trace button, and if you look directly above it, you will see Calc. So to get there, we need to hit Second Trace. Now, we're looking for where the lines intersect. So you'll want to select Intersect from your menu. That would be number 5. And it then asks you a question that says First Curve. What that's referring to is we're telling our calculator to find where our lines intersect. It wants to know which lines are you wondering about. So go ahead and select your first line for first curve and your second line for second curve. Then it's going to ask you if you want to guess. We don't need to guess. We can just hit enter a third time, and it should give you a solution of x equals negative 6, y equals negative 2. So that means our lines intersected at the point negative 6, negative 2. So our solution is x equals negative 6, y equals negative 2. That is the value that is the solution for both equations, therefore the solution to our system. All right, if you have any questions, please jot them down and we can talk about them tomorrow. Have a nice night. We'll see you in class tomorrow.